Welcome to Movement is Mandatory. In today's episode, we're going to go over the best way to recover from your squat workout. We're going to go through 3 different movements. We're going to do a couple rounds of each. This is going to really help eliminate the risk of any injuries coming and any imbalances coming from your workout you just did that day or you may have done a couple days ago. This is even great to do the day after squats, even a couple days squats if you're still feeling tight. So all you're gonna need is your body weight. Let's get ready to move. All right, so today's 3 different movements. We're gonna start standing and then we're gonna work our way to on our belly into some isolated hip movements. The main thing we're trying to do is we're trying to get our hips to get opened back up, and we're trying to get that stress back to particularly our posterior chain, particularly with squats. What we see often is that there's a lot of hip flexor quad usage, which is good. We want them to be used. But if we start getting fatigued, if we start putting a little more load on the system, or it's a little intense, as it should be with training, there might be some imbalances that can start occurring if you constantly are overusing it. So this is going to help combat against that. So what we're going to do first is 2 rounds of what we call a lateral lunge up. So we're going to start in a nice, good, wide position. And what we're going to do from here is we're going to lock this front foot. We're going to rotate on this back foot. And we're going to come down into a little bit of a lunge. So I'm going to feel a nice, good stretch through both sides of my hips. And I'm going to come back up. And then vice versa. I'm going to go to the other side. So this front knee stays forward. The back hip is what's rotating. And this helps to really kind of get those adductors, those rotators through the hips moving on both sides. We're going to go through about 10 reps of this on each. And we're not trying to do this super fast. Really just trying to get that connection with our feet back. I'm trying to really focus on opening those hips, feeling a nice good stretch. But even as I come up from that rotation, I'm trying to push down through my feet, which helps me feel those glutes fire. So we're gonna do about 5 more reps. We'll take a break for a second, we'll come back into it. But when I push down through my feet and feel my glutes fire, even though we just worked our glutes, we still want to make sure our system doesn't get reliant on using the imbalanced or the hip flexors after we move. That's the main thing that I like talking about with my clients, is that your post or your recovery protocol is, to me, more important than your pre. Let's take a break for about 20 seconds, because you can do all this stuff before you work out, but you're going to work out, things are going to fatigue, things are going to start going to a little bit of compensation because you're pushing your system. So you have to get that stress back, because if you don't, you go the rest of the day in this overuse of your hip flexors, you go back to work, you get in the car, all those things, then your body's going to start relying more on this to do just the everyday activities. And now you're making a behavioral change of that brain to muscle connection. Let's do 10 more reps. So that's the idea, is that the post or some of these fundamental trainings that we do with movement, with biomechanics, are really important for injury resilience, but also just performance in general. The more efficient we can become with our system, the more we're going to be able to take on the stresses of training and do it with better durability. So we're just going back and forth. We got about 6 more reps. Another thing besides pushing down through your feet that I want you to focus on is still keeping those abs tight. That's one thing that we can lose during our workouts, is that lower ab tension. So we want to make sure we're getting that back. Let's do about 2 more reps on each side. 1 more on each, actually. Good, push down through those feet. Last one. All right, perfect. So now we're gonna go to a bridge movement. So what we're doing with this is we're gonna do a single leg bridge. So I'm gonna bring my right knee to my chest. My left foot is as tight as I can get it to my butt. But what I'm gonna make sure that I do is I keep my knee inside my foot. And we do this so that we can really turn off that hip flexor from firing. So I'm just pushing down. We're doing 10 reps if you can. I'm pushing down through that left foot as hard as I can. And I'm trying to go as high as I can without this right knee coming out. So that's where I keep that right knee tight and hugged to my chest. We got 4 more reps. And your hamstrings might cramp up. That's okay. If they do, just take a break for a second. Pause the video if you need to. And then we switch to the other side. 10 more reps on this. Knee inside a foot. What we don't want is this. If our knees go out, that's when those hip flexors fire. So we really want to keep those knees inside of your feet and really push through. Even if you get a little bit off kilter, if you feel like you're getting pushed the opposite way with your shoulders, that's okay. We're focused on that foot and leg position more. Do one more rep, so we get our 10. We're gonna go right into 10 more on that left side. Get that good engagement. Push down through that foot. And I'll turn so you guys can see it this way. Just really pushing down through that foot. That's what allows us to get as high as our system will allow us without using that hip flexor or using our back. 2 more reps. And then 1 more set on that right side. And then we got 1 more movement after this that will be more even isolative to the hip, to getting that extension back. 4 more reps. Get your 10. Good. So now we're going to go right onto our stomachs. And we're going to do a prone hip extension. So we're going to do our left leg first. What we're doing is putting our foot outside of our knee, which keeps us in a little bit more of an internal rotated position. From here, I'm keeping my abs tight, and I'm just trying to drive that foot up. Now, the key with this is that you don't want to use your back. So even if you got to keep your hand right here on your back, I don't want you to lift where you have to arch your back to get it. It should just be that hip. And for me on this side, there's not a lot of movement, which is fine. It's something I'm continuing to work on. But I feel all that connection here. I feel a little bit through my hamstring, but I do not feel my back. And we're doing 10 reps. And then we switch. And you can see on this side, it's much easier for me. And for you at home, you might feel the same, that one side is much easier than the other. So that's something to take into account as you're going through, is how much difficult does one side feel to the other side. 5 more reps on this. And that will help you understand where some of your faults may be. 1 more rep. That might put you at a higher risk for injury if you have these big asymmetries. Let's do 1 more set of 10. This time it should be a little bit easier. And we're still keeping that foot outside of the knee as we kick. We don't want to kick like this, because then we're just, again, getting that hip flexor involvement. 3 more reps. It should still be in that back pocket glute and that hamstring of where you should feel that tension. It should not be in your back with this. We switch the other side. We finish with our last set of 10. And that hip extension is really important to get back, to get those hip flexors to stop firing, which is why we've done 2 drills to really focus on that. 4 more reps. Last one. Perfect. After you finished your 10, or 2 sets 10 on each side, go ahead and stand up. And just try squatting. See how much better it feels to make that connection with the floor. That tightness, get that tightness away from your hips. And just feel fresh. You should feel like there's less stress in your quads. Your hips should feel nice and loose. Back should feel more loose, feels tight. This is a great 3 movement drill or protocol to really make sure you're getting everything back in balance after your squats. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Putting out a lot of great stuff that we're going to continue to do on a daily basis. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for making movement mandatory.